So let's dive straight in. Let's get on with some insight. And what we wanted to talk about on this slide is how we see the landscape today from a bidder's perspective. So pretty much for everyone on this call, what challenges are we facing? We've already said it's getting more difficult. What is that? What does that mean? Well, what it means that if we're in a bid, we've got one chance to demonstrate our strengths and convince a potential client to choose us over the competition. Every bid has to be truly compelling because it's increasingly competitive, and that's a challenge, right? And we can see that it's increasingly competitive. We've only got to look at the independent research. We can see that win rates have dropped by 9% in recent years, with people largely, on average, only securing a little under half of the things they actually bid for. But at the same time, the volume of RFPs that people are being asked to complete continues to increase, and companies are increasing more of them because in tough times they are seeing them as a route through which they can drive growth. But the markets that we are tendering into are becoming oversaturated and highly competitive as clients strive for more innovation. And frankly, AI, Industrial Revolution 4.0, is consistently removing many of the traditional barriers to entry. So complexity is increasing, there's more requirements, there's changing technology, new entrants. These mean that customers actually quite often don't really know how to specify the best solution. And because of that, they're leaning into vendors for greater guidance and intellectual investment. And procurement are our favorite bedfellows. Not only procurement are taking a more of a front row seat, but actually they're bringing in technology which is automating that process and is making it more difficult for us to get meaningful client connections. And more decision makers with evolving needs mean that messaging and trying to deliver really personalized, focused communications is just getting increasingly complicated. We can see in the stats that only 57% of businesses feel equipped to respond to RFPs effectively. And so on that basis alone, that we can start to understand why win rates have dropped so significantly by 9% while the RFP volumes continue to rise. I mean, what does that mean? It means increased pressure on internal resources. And I imagine that's pretty much everyone on this call. And that pressure is to do more with less. That's creating a challenging cycle. And what that means is we're working harder, but experiencing diminishing returns. So we have to change what we're doing. We have to work smarter if we really want to shift the outcome. I'm going to pop this one over to you.
Yeah, so that's the world from the bidder. But what does it actually feel like for the actual end customer? And as James said there, there's always been constant change in the marketplace. That's one of the joys of working in this industry. But the speed of that change is greater than ever, and also there's not a natural stepping stone. If you're old enough like me to remember, it went from frame relay, MPLS, software defined networks. It's a natural step. It doesn't quite work like that now. So what that means to the end customer, and it's been really interesting sitting alongside some of the businesses out there, trying to work out what they need and who to buy it from, how to buy that. It's very interesting, that the observation. If we struggle to keep up with the industry, imagine what it's like when you're a business out there, selling cars or whatever you're doing. You don't have people sitting around analysing the network industry, waiting for the next RFP to go out. This is something you probably only do once every 3 or 5 years. So there's just not that resource. There's not that knowledge of what's happening in the market. And so when you're faced with a huge amount of complexity, those multiple providers, everybody knocking the door saying they can add value, saying that they've got a great proposition, listening to their business, sorry to say this, chaps, but actually that's not unique to you, right? Everybody says it. They're all out there. And it's a really challenging environment when you're trying to cut through all of that to get underneath that to understand what you need. So they haven't got enough time to do that. They do, yes, they want to self-educate on that. often well read, but it's quite difficult to get underneath. What do I do now? So we've particularly seen a lack of resource in the end customers. They've got this knowledge and expertise. So that says you could be saying things, they may not understand them. So there's some thoughts there we're going to cover a little bit later in this presentation, I think. The RFPs sometimes assume a level of knowledge which isn't there, to be quite honest. And then if we add in there business, this is a good thing and a bad thing. Business stakeholders are taking a much greater interest in network services. That's great. We want them to. We want to understand how they're using this for the business. But what it means is multiple changing needs. That means, so on the buyer side, the customer, your customers have got to deal with their own organization and changing requirements. And on the supply side, they've got lots of people knocking the door, all telling them how good their tech is and why they're the best partner. It's a very, very challenging environment for them to get through. And so the pressure, as James said a moment ago there, to present yourself, to get that proposition over, to be absolutely clear, crisp, and provide that competitive advantage to the end provider is more demanding than ever.